And people hit hard by Tropical Storm Fred are closely watching the track of Ida. News 13's Andrew James shows us what more heavy rain could do to the flood damaged area of Haywood County.
And just to give you an idea of how much flooding some of these areas saw, the RV park just down this road, the owner tells me the water was up to the top of these concrete pillars. And now with the threat of more rain this week, she wonders how much flooding this area will see.
So it rose above this and then it settled about here.
Debbie Dupuis said she had 5 feet of water in her basement from Tropical Storm Fred. She's cleaned out more than 6 inches of mud left behind.
And the water just forced its way through and rose and pretty much lost everything that was down there.
She owns River House RV Resort and Campground. It sits right beside her house off Highway 110. She tells me everyone made it out safely, but 15 RVs are totaled, some still sitting where the floodwaters left them.
We watched cars start bobbing and the RVs were just bobbing all over the place.
She moved to higher ground during the flooding and now worries what more rain could do this week.
It definitely makes you take a big breath and wonder, what rage is going to happen again.
It was over top of the fence here. All this was underwater.
Just down the road, Eric Brown is still cleaning up flood damage. He says his pasture was completely underwater. His house sits up higher and was not damaged, but he says his neighbors had major flooding and lost everything.
I mean, that pipes the windows, some of them in the ceiling, and it's terrible. It really is.
He too worries about more rain this week, saying it could be a major blow to the progress some families have made cleaning up the damage. But he believes in the strength of his community.
You just have to keep your mind set and pray to the Lord, and everything will be good.
And Brown tells me he doesn't understand why federal assistance has not been approved for some of the hardest hit areas. We know Governor Cooper requested that late last week. So far, the governor's office tells us that damage assessments for infrastructure alone exceed $20 million.
And Governor Cooper believes damages are estimated to exceed $20 million. Now, there may be more rain heading to those heavily hit areas. News 13's Hannah McKenzie has the latest from Haywood County.
Business owners here in Haywood County are left picking up the pieces following Tropical Storm Fred, and now they're gearing up for the possibility of more wet weather with Hurricane Ida. Ida, churning in the Gulf, anticipated to make landfall as a Category 4 hurricane over the weekend, according to the National Hurricane Center. Those still recovering from Tropical Storm Fred, fearing what's to come for western North Carolina.
I guess we're thankful to be alive, and that's just all I can say.
Brenda Skaggs was across the street as Owl Produce Market washed away in front of her eyes.
You cannot deal with those type of forces, so we just had to stand here and watch it.
The restaurant turned market passed down by Skaggs to her son Chris. A fourth-generation family-owned business around since the 50s, now a shell. Evidence of the floodwaters' fury everywhere.
All of the beautiful walnut, the door, the counters, everything is gone.
Across town,
love this jukebox.
Mike Graham was able to clean up and reopen after Fred, but only for a day.
Well, I would love to do that for you, but we're going to be closed till the 7th. We had a staff member test positive COVID, so we had to close for the 14 days.
After so many setbacks, the Jukebox Junction owner is treading water again.
And financially, we're taking a big hit.
And with Ida on the way,
I told a couple of my employees, I says, well, let's get ready for another flood, probably.
If Ida's track stays true to the most recent models here in western North Carolina, we could see impacts early to mid next week.
And a wife mourning tonight after the remaining person missing from Haywood County following deadly flooding has bin recovered. Jack Krolek's body was found on Friday. News 13's Hannah McKenzie spoke with his wife today.
Donna Krolak watched her husband of 25 years get swept away by rushing floodwaters. Since that day, she tells me the only thing keeping her going is the support from those here in Haywood County. The search for Jack Krolak coming to a heartbreaking end Friday.
They showed me the watch and it was his, and then they told me that they found him.
Krolak's wife Donna stuck in an excruciating limbo for 10 days after Krolak was swept away by floodwater in front of her eyes from the Laurel Bank campground during Tropical Storm Fred.
It feels like there's a weight taken off your shoulders, knowing that I can bring him home, and that the searchers, the volunteers, all the rescue personnel that were out looking for him, they can now go home to their families as well. And their mission is accomplished.
One of 6 killed in the storm, Krolak, the final missing person to be found. Rescue and recovery efforts now over. The rebuilding phase just beginning. With Hurricane Ida nearing landfall, the storm could halt any progress, some fearing a repeat of Fred. The difference now, says Canton Mayor Zeb Smathers, there's time to prepare.
What proactive steps are you taking in preparation for Ida?
Heavy equipment is being used for recovery from Fred. Try to get that out of the path. We don't want to find ourselves in a situation of shooting ourselves in the foot, that the very help and equipment that's using us to recover from Fred could possibly be lost by Ida.
Ida is expected to make landfall as a Category 4 hurricane along the Louisiana coast. Here in western North Carolina, we could see impacts mid-next week.